welcome everybody. It's beautiful to be with you, and I'm sorry I can't see you. Tonight we are going to explore passion, and it's a really big area in psychology, and much bigger actually than I realised once I got going on this. And you might have seen I started putting together some of my ideas there. I realised that it's a really, really big topic, but I'm excited to just go a little way down the road with you tonight. And I'd love to start with an acknowledgement of country. If you are sitting somewhere where you can put your feet on the ground, I recommend that. And because we'll then go into a short grounding meditation after this. So I'd like to acknowledge I'm on Wadawurrung country outside of Geelong at Point Lonsdale, and I would like to acknowledge and thank the traditional custodians of this beautiful land. The Wadawurrung people are part of the great mighty Kulin nation, and I acknowledge and thank their elders, past, present and emerging. And I acknowledge and thank any Indigenous people that may be in the room with us tonight. And I invite you to just take a moment now to place your feet on the ground and acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land where you are tonight. Thank you very much. And so my name is Lisa Barker. There are some people in the room tonight that have not been to one of my webinars before, so welcome. And I have others that have been many times, and welcome back. My work is Wellbeing Consultancy, and my business is called Heliotropia Wellbeing. And heliotropia means turn towards the sun. It is in psychology, it is, and in all of nature, the heliotropic effect is the tendency for all living things, all living systems, including us, to turn towards what enables life and uplifts us, and to turn away from what detracts from life and depletes us. And you'll see there that my career has been in education, and then more recently in positive psychology. And I see the work I do now as no less significant than all of the teaching work I did over 28 years. This is really wellbeing education. So my work, as well as being informed by the science of wellbeing, which is positive psychology, my work is very much informed by nature. We are nature. Everything that we have in our world has been supplied by nature. And everything we use goes back into nature, of course. And just like a plant, we humans need to have really good soil. We start with the seed. We need to have really good soil, and we need to be nurtured and to nurture one another throughout life in order to flourish. And the other big influence in my work is Theory U, which is a transformational systems change theory. And these three great divides, which are all deeply interconnected, make up the icebergs of some of the issues that we are facing in our world today. The first being the ecological divide, the barrier between ourselves and nature that we have created. The social divide, of course, the barrier between ourselves and other people. And we've created all of these systems such as poverty and gender, race, so many different systems that have divided us. And the spiritual divide, that barrier between ourselves and our highest potential self. And so tonight's session is really looking at the spiritual divide in a little bit of detail. And so shining a light on who we are and what our very best potential self, who our very best potential self is. And we know that everything on planet Earth is deeply interconnected and in relationship with everything else. And we're really seeing this now around the world with the way in which the pandemic has not only spread throughout the world, but the way in which there are many, many organisations and people working together to come up with some really workable and sustainable solutions to move us through this time. And it's no understatement to say we're living in a time of really profound disruption. And whilst there's a lot of threat in times like these, a lot of stress, there's also massive opportunity to learn and grow and to let go of ways that we may be doing things, and to let come new ways of doing and new ways of being. So I really hope tonight that that is just something that might spark something for you tonight. And so this is where we're headed. We're going to have a short meditation. Then we'll go through a brief history of passion. We'll look at a couple of definitions and the 7 core elements. And then we'll talk about passion and well-being, how to activate passions, a model which is called the passion spiral, and then what's next for you, and then hopefully time to have a couple of questions and answers. So I really invite you now, we're just going to have a very brief meditation, but just to bring you into the room. I do make this a feature of every webinar for those that are new tonight, just because I think we can rush around like mad and find it difficult to find stillness in our lives. So once again, I invite you to just put your feet on the ground and connect to the planet, connect to Mother Earth through the soles of your feet. And then if we sit upright, then we connect upwards and outwards to our highest potential self and to the rest of the world. And we can just take an opportunity now to take some really deep breaths at your own pace. And this can just be a beautiful opportunity to find some peace and some stillness in the day, and also to slow our breathing down. I know I'm not alone I'm not the only Victorian in the room, but here in Victoria, you know, our positive COVID cases are rising. We had a pretty big number today. I think it was in the 70s, which for Australia is a big number, of course. And I can feel my anxiety building. And so just taking an opportunity to take deep, slow breaths does slow everything down. And brings my awareness back to the here and now, not to what might happen, not to what has already happened, but to this present moment. And so I invite you to just put down anything that you're carrying at the moment, any worry or stress or plans that you need to work through. It'll still be there for you. You can pick it up later. But just for the next little while we're together, you can put it down. And I invite you to come back into the room now and we'll get going together. Thank you for that. I needed that tonight. And we will get started with our webinar. So a little bit of history on passion. A lot of people have had a lot to say about it, including philosophers. And Plato was, so he lived 400 years before Christ. And Plato said, passion is anger, lust, and fear. And that if you lose your reason, then you will really, really suffer. And if you lose control of your passion, you will suffer. Descartes said it's a wonderful thing as long as it has reason alongside it. Spinoza said something quite similar, that we can become slave-like if our passion controls us and demonstrate animal-like behaviour. And Hegel, in the 1800s, early 1800s, said nothing great has ever been achieved without passion. So having a look at those, I wonder if you agree with those or with elements of those. And I wonder if anything that's currently happening in our world does really equate to one of these comments about passion through the ages. It certainly does for me. And then, of course, there's Aristotle, and positive psychology really sees Aristotle as a founding father of the science of well-being. Because of his theory around eudaimonia, which means the pursuit of virtue, excellence, and the best within us. And so Aristotle saw passion as a personal expressiveness through one's true self, which empowers us to reach our highest potential and our greatest fulfillment. And I just had to put Greta there. She'll be back later, but I think she is a beautiful example of passion. And if we look at the word eudaimonia, the EU means good and the daimon means spirit. So Aristotle was really talking about what is the good spirit inside us that helps us to lead a good life for the good of others as well, not just for the pursuit of ourselves. And so this is the world leading authority on passion, and his name is Robert Valerond. And here's his definition. Passion is a strong inclination towards a self-defining activity that one likes or even loves, finds important, and in which one invests time on a regular basis. It can also come to define oneself The activity is an inherent part of who one is. And his research is very significant, and it's across the world. He is one of these great researchers that worked out pretty quickly. He's from Quebec in Canada, but he worked out pretty quickly that his sample in Quebec is not necessarily going to match the context of people around the world. And so he really did go out, and he has cross-cultural validity in his studies. And he worked out that passion is universal, it's deeply felt in all cultures. And he also tied it with self-determination. And self-determination, of course, I've talked about this in other webinars, but it is the 3 essential building blocks of well-being. And so once we have all of our other basic needs met, then we really need these 3 blocks for ongoing well-being. And they are, of course, autonomy. So the freedom to make choices in our lives and to be in control of our lives. Relatedness, the ability to connect and have relationships with others. And competence, areas in our life that where we can show that we are capable and competent. And without these 3 big building blocks, it can be very, very hard for people to have ongoing well-being. And so how does passion actually build well-being? It's a really causal thing. One thing causes the next thing, which causes the next thing. So all the research has shown that very strongly. So if we start on the left, we experience passionate engagement in something we love. And you might want to just think for a moment of something either now or in the past that you have really, really become very engaged with. And just remember that for a moment, or reflect on that for a moment. This leads to an increase in positive emotions and positive thoughts in that moment, which then leads to an increase in our psychological well-being. So it is very causal. It builds upon, the experience builds upon the emotions and thoughts and feelings, which then lead to psychological well-being. And later on, we'll look at, well, what does it look like if we don't have a passion? And we will get to that later. And so in Valeron's research, he and his colleagues, of course, identified 7 core elements. So a passion is usually directed towards something specific. It's an enduring love of the activity. It's highly valued by the person, so it aligns with the person's values. It is motivational, so that means when we may not necessarily, it could be our job and maybe we are paid for it, but we would do it anyway. We have a deep intrinsic motivation. It lasts over time. It can last for decades, last for a whole lifetime. It involves high levels of energy. It becomes part of our identity. So, for example, if music is something that we do, once it becomes a passion, we become a musician, and we identify ourselves as a musician. It's just one example. But it can take one of 2 forms, and I'm going to have a look at those with you now. So harmonious passion, I thought I'd put up a few of my passions here to highlight harmonious passion. So when we have harmonious passion in our lives, we love the activity, really, really enjoy it. We find it important. So as I mentioned before, it may be our work or it may be something we do for leisure, but it's important to us. We love spending time on it, and we actively make time for it. And we see it as part of our identity. And, you know, over the course of my life, I was reflecting today, and I would love to invite you to do this because I know in the room tonight I have people of many different ages. I was just going through the decades. So what was I passionate about 0 to 10? 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50. And now in my mid-50s, what am I passionate about now? And it was an interesting little exercise to do. I won't share tonight, there isn't time, but a very interesting exercise to do. And just to see if you have had varied passions, or if you've had periods in your life where you actually haven't had passions. So I invite you to try that out. My latest passion is this photograph here, which is winter swimming in the ocean. And I'm going to come back to that a little bit later, but it's becoming a fierce passion. And I'll touch on that again in a few minutes. So harmonious passions in our life, they actually protect us against ill-being. They are one of the protective factors in life that help us to stay well and be well. And harmonious passions occupy a significant but not overpowering space in our identity, and they are in harmony with other aspects of our lives. And that's the passion flower there. I just had to get that in somewhere. So yes, that word harmonious is really important. Now, obsessive passion. And I have here, I wonder if you recognise the artist, that is Louise Bourgeois, incredible French artist who lived for many decades in New York. But that particular work is called Spiral Woman, and it does speak to me about obsessive passion. So the first 4 indicators here are the same as harmonious passion. Love the activity, find it important, make time for it, definitely part of who I am. But then things start to change. Obsessive passion begins to take hold of us. We can develop a rigid persistence towards it, that it absolutely has to happen or else. It becomes so overriding that we start to make decisions about other things in our lives. And if these other things in our lives conflict with our passion, then the other things have to go. We can become very defensive about it, particularly if someone says, look, you know, do you think that maybe you need to have a look at doing something else for a little while? We can become incredibly defensive. Our self-esteem and our identity depends on it. And this is a particular worry. Our self-worth is so wrapped up in it that if we can't do it, and you know, we know that this is actually happening around the world at the moment. A lot of people actually cannot engage in the things that are most meaningful for them. We start to unravel. And if we fail, so if we can't do it or things don't work out for us, it can have a really huge psychological impact on us. And so obsessive passion, all the research shows, and it is replicated research around the world, that obsessive passion predicts burnout and anxiety and depression. So it's a kind of serious thing. So we know that when we are passionately engaged in something, we have all of these beautiful positive emotions. And I just want to show you how that works. And if you were on an earlier webinar, I think right back in very early days, early April, I did use this model. It's a very significant wellbeing model called the Broaden and Build model. And it's been developed by Barbara Fredrickson, and a colleague of hers there has been involved in this particular piece of research. So if we start here, this is why positive emotions are so, so important. It's not just for us to feel happy all the time. There's actually a very strong wellbeing reason why we need to experience positive emotions. So if we start here, we experience the positive emotion. And this actually has a cognitive effect. It actually helps us to broaden our cognitive awareness and our cognitive processes. And we experience creative and novel thoughts, ideas, and actions. And because this happens, this leads to a building of, so this is the broadened side and now the building of personal resources such as resilience, skills, knowledge, social supports, and relationships. And because that is happening, we have enhanced health and an enhanced sense of purpose, which then leads to more positive emotions, and then the spiral starts again. So it is a very powerful way, positive emotions are a very powerful way to create well-being in our lives. And so we have that broadening of awareness, broadening of cognition, and then well-being is built and it's self-reinforcing. But obsessive passion can lead to the other, to that exact same process going in reverse, leading to negative emotions and ill-being. And that, of course, looks like this if we experience negative emotion. And of course, this is happening a lot at the moment. And I wonder if you might even, as I just go through this model, you might think of a time recently where you've been feeling very flat and finding things difficult. When we experience that negative emotion, we actually have a narrowing of our cognitive resources. So our thought processes narrow down. It's a little bit like a tunnel vision kind of effect. Our creativity narrows, our enthusiasm, of course, narrows. And this narrowing effect leads to a decrease in these really important resources, our resilience, our skills, our knowledge, our social supports, and our ability to reach out to people and continue to have positive and meaningful reciprocal relationships. And of course, that leads to decreased health, decreased fulfillment, decreased sense of purpose. And then it's a big spiral. Because we're feeling this, we then experience more negative emotion. And it looks a bit like that, unfortunately. A loss of agency, that's certainly happening at the moment. And a narrowing of our awareness and cognition and our well-being takes a dive. And so COVID-19, it has really squished a lot of passion, very, very flat. And I put up Tokyo 2020 here just as an example, but it's certainly not only sports people who find themselves in an incredibly difficult situation at the moment. We have people around the world who really without any warning went from being able to fully engage in life and possibly activate their passions every day to having the door slammed on that, at least for now and for the foreseeable future. So what do we do about this? This is a really, really tough place to be. And, you know, for all of the athletes that were planning to be in Tokyo now, you know, right now, preparing for the games to begin, there's a process there. We know that they must have been passionate because they could not have got to that stage, and they may have had obsessive passion. It's hard to know. I'm sure some of them did. But there's really now a process to go through in order to be able to stay okay. And that is, I've just put a few things down here. It's acceptance of the situation, acceptance of a situation that we cannot control. It's an understanding that bringing positive emotion into each day is very, very important. Creativity, of course, the positive emotion will lead to creativity because it's that cognitive, that ability to expand or broaden our cognitive processes. An openness to different experiences, not the ones that we thought we were going to have, but different ones. Determination, move through this time, and of course a resilience and a desire to see this as an incredible challenge, but also possibly an opportunity to take another path that was not expected, but may lead somewhere really interesting. And what about for people who don't have a passion, and also leading on from just that last slide? It can be really hard if we're not passionate about anything in life, and we don't have to be passionate every day. I mean, that's kind of chronic passion. But if we never feel really deeply engaged, then our lives we can find ourselves languishing rather than thriving. And, 85%, the research shows that 85% of people at some point in their life have had a passion and have engaged harmoniously in a passion. So that just leaves 15% that haven't. But at the moment, I think it is really important to think about, well, what can I get excited about? Because there's a lot happening in the world that's not heliotropic. There's a lot happening that's quite life depleting. And that, I'm mentioning it again, but that positive emotion is very, very important. And of course, over a long period of time, non-passionate people do experience a decrease in their psychological well-being. And they find themselves just kind of surviving, getting through each day, and but not feeling that engagement in life. And so how can we activate passion? I want to tell you about some more research which is not from Valorant. This research is by two academic social psychologists from the University of East London, which is another university that offers the Masters of Positive Psychology. There are not many around the world, but the University of East London is one. And they actually looked at all of Valoron's research and found it very valid, but they wanted to go out and actually interview people. And so they conducted a study where they went out and they interviewed people and asked them a series of questions. And I'm not going to go through the questions, but I am going to just invite you to email me if you would like them, and you could do it as a journaling activity yourself. But what they found was that developing a passionate way of being in life is really important. If we want to activate passion in life, we actually have to think about, rather than doing, think about being, a passionate way of being. And so beginning to see passion as one of our qualities that we have. Again, that kind of self-defining idea. So beginning to believe I am a passionate person. And then, of course, making sure that it's in accordance with your values and your beliefs. And so they came up with a model. There are a lot of models in wellbeing. But they created this model which is called the passion spiral. And you can start anywhere here. So it doesn't necessarily start at the top, even though that says they're a passionate way of being. But you can start wherever, because this is also a self-reinforcing cycle that once you get into this way of being, then passion can be quite easy to maintain and to bring into your life on a regular basis. So they've got 4 themes here. Passionate way of being must be linked to purpose, and it must be truly authentic to who you are. It needs to be motivated intrinsically, so you need to really want to do this because you want to make a positive impact, or because you want to learn and grow and become a better person or become better at something. And so what needs to be in place for that to happen is some values. So again, aligning our passions to the values that we hold, and a sense of belonging. So often when we activate a passion, we can then form groups with other people who have the same passion. So, we talked about musicians earlier. So when musicians are with other musicians, there's this incredible synergy between them because they are like-minded. They're all being truly authentic with their sense of purpose together. So that is also important. And then a self-belief that you can actually do this, that you can get better at this and you can be part of this. And having a variety of interests in life. So people who have harmonious passion, they usually have 2 or 3 or 4 passions in their life, not just one. And this model, when Hallinan and Lomas went out and interviewed all these people, they found this over and over again, that people said that they needed the variety in order for it to have a wellbeing effect. It was important they had some variety. And so this is good, I'm right on time. What might be next for you? So I'd love to make some suggestions here, and I know for all of us in the room, our context is very, very different. We're all living different lives and have different elements in each day that create our own unique life. And so whatever I say, it's not a one size fits all. Some of the things that you've heard tonight, you will have resonated and others may not have. And so these suggestions, I put the same caveat on them. The first one there is you might like to reflect on your sense of purpose, particularly if at the moment it is fragile because of what we are experiencing. And if it is your significant why, then it's really important to work out ways in which you can continue to foster it and nurture it and water it and put it in the sun, so that when we move through this time, you will be able to pick it up again and get going with it. You know, for my own work, I believe it's going to be a very long time before I'm actually out doing what truly lights me up, which is being in schools and being with young people and collaborating with them on their wellbeing. But I'm being very realistic. I think schools have got so much going on at the moment that I'm the last person that is going to get called in to run a session. So I need to work out ways that I can continue to nurture my sense of purpose. And this is one of the ways I'm doing it. And I certainly thank those people who have been so supportive of me in this. The second one there is experimenting with some ideas that you've been contemplating. You know, humans, we're the most wonderful contemplators. We can spend years, in fact, contemplating different ideas and different possibilities. But now's a great time to actually experiment. If you've got some ideas, some interests that may become passions for you, just start experimenting with, you know, what kind of groups are out there. Maybe there's some online stuff happening at the moment that you can start to tap into. Actually step into the space and see what you can find out. Look for variety, always looking for variety and opportunities to learn and grow. That when we put all of our eggs in one basket and then something happens to that basket, it's very, very difficult. So think about that variety idea with having more than one passion, you know, having 2 or 3. Cultivate a heliotropic awareness. So not all passions are good for us. I'm sure you can think of examples possibly in your life or in the lives of others where a passion has become destructive and has hurt people. And has actually not been for the greater good. So always think about, how is this actually uplifting my life and the life of others around me? How is this, how is this helping me to turn towards the sun, turn towards what is good and helps me to flourish? And then that last one there, take a daily dose approach, meaning passions we should be doing them regularly, of course, because then they wouldn't be a passion if you only very occasionally participated. But just think of small little ways each day that you can tap into the things that you're interested in, especially if you're in a position at the moment with the pandemic where you can't fully engage. And also, just before we finish, someone else's passion is not sustainable in your life. And I did have to put up this picture here because I think there are two women in this picture who potentially their lives have been utterly driven by the passions of their partners. And I think the world is littered with women who were not able to fully engage their passion because of the passion of their partners. But it's not sustainable in the long run. So, if you have a passion at the moment that's not really your passion, but you're being a very good sport and you're going along with it, I'd love to suggest to you that that's not sustainable long term. And if you have not read Michelle Obama's book, her memoir, Becoming, there's a lot of well-being in that book. And she really does talk very candidly about what it was like to be immersed for many, many years in something that her partner was super passionate about, but she was not as passionate. So this is the passion scale. We're not going to do it tonight, but you can have a look at some of those questions and just work out if you've got a particular passion in mind. Just work out, are you above the line or below the line? And there's some very strong language there below the line, but it can happen quite easily. And I said that I would come back to my ocean swimming, and because I'm just absolutely loving it and tick all of these boxes straight away. There's 7 ticks right there. But I can see how this might develop, and it's just very interesting for me as someone that spends a lot of time in this wellbeing space and reading a lot about different theories and research. It can happen when you get very, very keen on something. And so I'm keeping an eye so that I don't tip into number 8 to 14. And so it would not be a Heliotropia webinar without me mentioning mindfulness. I think it is such an essential part of building personal well-being and community well-being and global well-being for that matter. A regular mindfulness practice will really help you to lead a more mindful life, and everything that we've talked about tonight is going to be enhanced and nurtured by a mindful approach. And here she is again. I did say she'd be back. We know that Greta, she calls her Asperger's syndrome her superpower, and we know that she has a singular focus. And we have very passionate people around the world who do have a singular focus. And what I want to say about Greta is that her focus is for the greater good. She is gutsy and brave, and this was something that she said recently, which I think does kind of say a lot about these incredibly passionate people who want to change the world. She said, I don't get the double talk between what you know, what you say, and what you do. To me, they are all one and the same thing. And I just wanted to finish with her because she is deeply passionate. I worry for her sometimes, you know, as a teacher and a mother and a wellbeing educator. I do worry for her, but she has mobilised a movement that is creating an absolute shift, a shift that, you know, we are not going backwards again. I think she and young people have ensured that for us all. So here are my details. I'd love any questions. I always love a tricky question. I can't always answer them. If you would like to keep in touch, I would absolutely love that. This is my website. If you haven't been on my website, I do write a blog once a month, and I can send that directly to you if you just sign up on the contact list. This is Instagram. I try and put something up there most days that is related to either the work I'm currently doing or something that's happening in the world. And then there's Facebook and LinkedIn. And down the bottom here is my email. So if there's anything tonight that you are particularly interested in, so I mentioned those questions that I didn't have time to go through, but they would be great journaling questions if you're actually thinking about, yeah, I do want to activate more passion in my life. And I can certainly send them through to you. Or I can send any of these research papers to you too, if you feel like really diving in. I would just be very, very happy to help. So are there any questions? I'm looking in the Q&A now, just to see if there's anything there. And yeah, for some reason my chat bar is completely gone. I think yours might be too. So we can't actually use that tonight, which is a shame. Let me just see if I can activate anything else here. Okay, even though this is my 13th webinar on Zoom, and I've loved every one of them, you know, I'm still not entirely across Zoom. It seems to change every time I go on. So I hope that you have enjoyed tonight. I hope that you've been able to see everything, and that I've been able to make it reasonably practical. And also I really hope, you know, my great hope with any of these webinars is that you go away just thinking about something. You know, it just activates something in you to continue to think about and build your own personal well-being and the well-being of those around you. You know, the children that you look after. I know that I always have some teachers in the room, which I'm just so happy that I am able to have you in the room each time. I can see I've got a hand up here. Let me have a look and see if I can get you to ask a question. Would you like to ask a question? No, maybe not. No. Okay. So I'm going to let you go on with your evening, everybody. And I want to thank you very much for being with me tonight. There'll be, my next webinar is in 2 weeks' time. And it does actually lead on from this. It's all about how to bring more play and pleasure into life. And I think it might be, what have I done here? I think it might be the first day back of this for the school term in Victoria. And so I'm sorry about that timing. You're going to be exhausted, the teachers that I do have that regularly tune in. But maybe it's a way to have a look at, well, you know, how can I bring more play and pleasure into the lives of the children that I'm working with? So I do hope you'll join me for that. I think I'll just see if there's a question there. Just a thank you. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Beautiful to be with you. I will see you in 2 weeks' time, but I am fully expecting emails to ask for resources and things tomorrow, so do not hesitate to reach out, and particularly if you want to do that journaling activity. I think it would be worth doing. Okay, good night, everyone. I think I've stuck to time. I hope. It's been beautiful to be with you. Have a lovely evening.